Alright, so this is for the in-cab inspection. You have to say, I will now begin my in-cab inspection. So first thing is seatbelt. Make sure it's not cracked, working properly, and properly secured. And you put on your seatbelt. Storage compartment. Inside, I have my 3 reflective triangle, extra fuses, hoses, and belts. They are not cracked or broken and properly secured. Also, inside my storage compartment is my windshield fluid reservoir. It is not cracked or leaking, it is filled to the proper level, and is properly secured with cap in place. The fire extinguisher is not cracked or broken, not leaking, properly secured, and up to date. The mirrors and supports are not cracked, broken, and are properly secured. I will make sure my mirrors are clean and visible and properly adjusted before my trip. Do the same on both sides. Highway horn is not cracked, broken, or leaking, working properly and properly secured. And then you blow the horn. Windshield, properly secured, no cracks more than 1/4 of an inch. If more than that, you need to replace the windshield. I will now turn on my key to demonstrate my electrical components. So you turn the key over to the electrical, but do not start the engine. So you check the AC, heater, and defroster, not cracked, not leaking, working properly and properly secured. Windshield wipers not cracked, working properly and properly secured. Headlights and high beams not cracked, working properly and properly secured. Make sure to turn on and off every light switch that is in the truck. Hazard lights, right turn signal, left turn signal, not cracked, working properly and properly secured. The city horn is not cracked, not leaking, working properly and properly secured, and then demonstrate that it works. Alright, next is the air brakes. You got to make sure you say everything. I am now going to begin my air brake test. I'm going to put my truck in neutral, start my engine, and build pressure to the maximum capacity between 120 and 140 psi by raising my RPMs no more than 1500. So then you push the clutch in, place your foot on the brake, and start the engine. Hold the RPMs at 1500 until you hear the air blast or the governor cut out. Once you hear the air blast, take the foot off the accelerator and state your results. My tanks are now full to the maximum capacity at 125 psi-ish. I know this because my needle stopped moving to the right. I will now read and identify my gauges. Water and temperature gauge, no more than 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Oil pressure gauge, between 30 and 60 psi. The tachometer, I will make sure not to exceed 1500 RPMs while operating my vehicle. The speedometer, I'll make sure to follow and obey all speed limits. Primary and secondary air gauge, maximum capacity should be between 120 and 140 psi, and the voltmeter needs to read between 12 and 14 volts. I'm now going to put my truck in low gear, stop my engine, and release my brakes. So make sure you release the clutch after you turn the engine off, and make sure you let the air to stop hissing before you continue on to the next statement. My next step is the 1 minute air leak test. I cannot lose more than 4 psi. So you step on the service brake, and then you got to say how much psi you have at the moment, and then you say my minute starts now. And then when your minute is up, you have to say how much psi you have and that your system is working properly. When doing the test, it is very important that your foot does not come off of the brake at all. You want to have as much pressure on the service brake as possible without straining yourself. After your minute is up, state your result and then take your foot off the brake. And then the next step is the low air warning device. So turn on the key, and I believe that's just the power. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to lower my air pressure between 75 to 55 psi by fanning my service brake. I'm going to hear a buzzer and when a warning light comes on my dashboard. Lower the pressure down to 60 psi so that the examiner can see that you are within the range that you provided him or her. A light has appeared and a buzzer sounded at 60 psi, telling me I have low air pressure. That is working properly. And turn off the key. My next step is going to be the emergency pop out. I will lower my pressure between 45 to 20 psi to see if the service brake valves come out automatically. State your results. My valves popped out at whatever psi and the system's working properly. The next step is the governor cutout. Place truck in neutral and start the engine. I'm going to build my pressure to the maximum capacity at around 125 psi by raising my RPMs no more than 1500. My governor should cut out at no more than 140 psi. So during the test, watch your primary air gauge and listen for the air blast. Your test will be complete once the truck blasts the air. My governor cutout is at whatever your cutout popped out or kicked in at. I know this because my needle stopped moving to the right and my system is working properly. My next step is the governor cut in. I'm going to step on my service brake and lower the pressure to around 100 psi. My governor should cut in at no less than 100 psi. And then you do it and then you say my governor has cut in at whatever it cut in. I know this because my needles started moving to the right and my tanks are receiving air and my system is working properly. When doing this test, hit your brake once and wait 8 seconds. After the 8 seconds are up, look at the primary air gauge. If the needle has not started moving to the right, hit the service brake again and wait 8 seconds. If the needle has not started moving yet, raise your RPMs to 1000 to get the governor to kick in. Do not lower the pressure below 100 psi on this test. And after this, you got to do your brake test. For the first one, there's 3 of them. So the first one you say, I will place the truck in low gear. Truck is running and clutch is pressed in. I will first test my trailer brakes. I will do this by releasing the tractor brakes and releasing the clutch slowly. Once you feel a tug, let them know that your trailer brake is working properly. I will now test the tractor brake. I will do this by applying my parking brake and releasing my trailer brake. And once you feel the tug, let them know that your tractor brake is working properly. After this, you test the service brake. I will apply my service brake and will release my parking brake and release my clutch slowly. Once you feel a tug, let them know that your service brake is working properly. That concludes my air brake test. Now I'll put my truck in neutral, apply my air brakes, and now wait for further instructions. And then after this is basically the point breakdown for the offset parking. So you get 2 free pull-ups, minus 2 points per line crossed. You get minus 2 points for each cone you hit, and minus 1 point for every pull-up after your 2 free. So for the parallel parking, you get 2 free pull-ups. You get minus 1 point for every pull-up after the free. Minus 1 point to restart. Minus 2 points per cross line. Minus 2 points per hit cone. Only allow 2 exits to get out of the truck. Any more exits is an automatic fail, so there's no getting around that. Now for straight backing, you get 1 free pull-up. You get minus 2 points per line crossed, minus 2 points per cone hit, and minus 1 point for every pull-up after the first free one. Okay, so breakdown for alley docking. You get 2 free pull-ups, minus 1 point for every pull-up after the free, minus 1 to restart, minus 2 points per cross line, minus 2 points per cone hit. Only allow 2 exits. Any more is automatic fail. And the DOT tape must be between the 2 lines. which I'm assuming they're talking about the 3-foot mark at the rear of the dock. All right, 10 speed. Pretty familiar with that. And this looks like it. Now I just gotta study this shit.